Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're confronting a truly disturbing truth. Child trafficking isn't just something that happens over there.
No, not
It's
all.
happening right here, in our own communities. And it's a crime that's expanding rapidly.
The numbers are just incredibly sobering.
Yeah, I mean, over the past 15 years, the proportion of kids among reported victims, it's tripled.
Tripled, and for boys, it's even worse, a five-fold increase.
Yeah.
That's staggering.
It really is. These aren't just statistics. They're like a blaring alarm bell.
Exactly. And for listeners maybe feeling a bit overwhelmed by that, the key thing today, the point of this deep dive, is really about equipping you.
Right.
We want to help you understand child trafficking, what it actually is, how these traffickers operate, the terrible impact it has.
And crucially, how we can all fight back together.
Yes, because our sources, like, they steal kids, they make it crystal clear. This isn't shrinking, it's growing, and it targets the most vulnerable.
Absolutely. So our mission today is to pull out the most vital insights, arm you with real knowledge and practical steps.
Sort of a shortcut to getting properly informed on such a critical issue.
Exactly. So let's get into it. Let's unpack the scale of this often unseen epidemic.
Okay, so when we talk about child trafficking, it's vital to grasp the core of it. It is child abuse, plain and simple.
And it's a broad definition, right? Not just one thing.
Very broad. It covers recruiting, moving, hiding, abducting kids for all sorts of exploitation. Sexual abuse, obviously, is a big part.
But it's more than that.
Oh, yeah. Forced labor, too. And in places you might not immediately picture, like restaurants, nail bars, farms, even as domestic servants, basically invisible slaves.
Wow. And the list goes on, doesn't it? Things like forced marriage, illegal adoption.
Or even forcing kids to commit crimes themselves, like begging or, running drugs.
What's really unsettling, I think, is that it's not just confined to, say, war zones or really impoverished countries. It seems to thrive everywhere. Cities, suburbs. Why is that?
That's a really key point. Traffickers exploit vulnerabilities, and those vulnerabilities, well, they exist everywhere.
Okay.
Poverty, lack of education, family breakdown, maybe someone's migration status makes them vulnerable. These cracks exist in societies all over the world.
So it's truly global.
Absolutely. Globally, kids make up, 35 to 38% of identified victims. Some reports put it closer to 40%.
And the latest UNODC report, the one from 2024, showed a big jump recently.
A huge jump, a 25% increase in detected victims overall between 2019 and 2022. And specifically for child trafficking, that surged 31%. It's alarming.
A 31% surge. That's terrifying. And it's worth remembering, isn't it, that a lot of this exploitation happens within a child's own country.
Yes, very often. And there's that gender difference, too. Girls are primarily targeted for sexual exploitation.
While boys are increasingly being forced into labor or crime.
Exactly. But maybe the most insidious fact, the one that really hits home, is how these kids are actually recruited.
This is the part that just turns everything upside down.
It really does. Because over half of child victims, they're recruited by family or friends.
Family or friends. Not the stranger in the shadows we were always warned about.
Right. It completely shatters that stranger danger myth. It means, trust itself is being weaponized.
So what does that mean for parents, for anyone looking out for kids? What's the biggest takeaway from that awful statistic?
I think the biggest takeaway is that vigilance can't just be about strangers. It has to extend to, a child's entire circle.
Everyone they interact with.
Yeah, and it highlights just how critical open communication is within families. Kids need to feel safe reporting anything suspicious or uncomfortable, no matter who it involves.
That's such a crucial point. So if it's often someone known, how do these predators, these hunters, as the sources call them, how do they actually operate? They must be masters of deception.
Oh, absolutely. They're constantly adapting, using modern tools, societal trends. You name it.
And grooming is central to that, right?
Central. It's a meticulous process, building trust online or in person, offering gifts, friendship, promising a better life.
Anything to sort of lower their guard.
Exactly. Lower their guard, erode their boundaries, and crucially, isolate them from their support networks, family, friends, teachers.
And the internet. That's become a primary hunting ground now.
Without a doubt. Social media, gaming platforms, messaging apps, they're all tools for traffickers.
Can you explain the difference between hunting and fishing online? The
Right.
sources mention those tactics.
Sure, hunting is more targeted. A trafficker uses a fake profile, maybe pretends to be another kid or a romantic interest, and goes after a specific child they've identified.
Okay.
Fishing is casting a wider net. They put out fake job offers, maybe promises of fame or modeling gigs, and just wait for someone vulnerable to respond.
And I was just stunned to read about them targeting single parents on dating apps. How does that even work to get to the kid?
It's incredibly manipulative. They target the parent, build a relationship, gain trust.
So they seem like a partner.
Right. And then, through that relationship with the parent, they get access to the children, start grooming them slowly, subtly. It exploits the parent's need for connection. It's a long game.
That's just a level of calculation that's hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
So once they've gained that trust, how do they keep control?
Once the isolation and trust are there, the control tactics kick in. Threats, definitely. Taking away phones or documents.
Trapping them with debt, maybe?
Yes, debt bondage is common, or using drugs, physical violence. It shifts from manipulation to outright coercion.
And there are these specific scams they run, like the bait and switch.
Yeah, that's a classic one. Lure them with a promise, a good job, an opportunity, and then when the child arrives, they're forced into something completely different, like labor or sexual exploitation.
It's terrifying. Some are drugged and moved, right? So they're completely disoriented.
Exactly. Makes escape almost impossible. Then there's the bar deception, tricking young women into thinking they're getting a waitressing job, which then turns into sex trafficking.
Well, what about pig butchering? That sounds bizarre.
It sounds strange, but it's a serious, growing problem, often targeting educated young people. They're lured into fake tech jobs, sometimes overseas,
Okay.
only to be trapped and forced to run sophisticated online financial scams themselves. They become perpetrators under duress.
So they're victims forced to victimize others.
Precisely. The key thing across all these methods is how structured and sophisticated modern trafficking is. It's not just physical force anymore.
Are using tech too, right, to cover their tracks?
Absolutely. Encrypted messaging, cryptocurrencies, makes them harder to detect. And, the dark market for child sexual abuse materials, CSAM, and live-streamed abuse.
Yeah.
That creates a whole horrifying, profitable structure.
And just to hammer it home again, it's so often someone the child knows.
Mm-hmm.
Family, friends, someone who groomed them, not just a random stranger.
That point cannot be stressed enough. It changes everything about how we need to think about prevention and detection.
Okay, so we've seen how widespread this is, how cunning the traffickers are. Let's turn to the impact. The human cost. What does this actually do to a child?
The impact is devastating and incredibly long-lasting. We're talking about deep, profound trauma, sexual, physical, emotional abuse, often combined with just severe neglect.
The psychological scars must be immense.
Mhm.
PTSD, depression, anxiety.
Suicidal thoughts, yes, but also cognitive problems, memory loss, difficulty concentrating, sometimes just an emotional numbness, a detachment.
And the physical toll too, obviously. Injuries, malnutrition, STIs.
All of that. But if you ask what's perhaps the most damaging long-term effect, I'd say it's the profound social isolation and how it completely warps their understanding of what's normal.
How so?
Well, they're robbed of education, of healthy relationships. They develop deep-seated distrust, often immense shame and self-blame. Their whole sense of safety, their ability to form bonds, it's fundamentally damaged.
So it doesn't just steal their childhood in the moment.
No, it fundamentally rewires their capacity for a safe, healthy future. It changes their trajectory.
And what about the wider impact on families, communities, society?
The ripple effects are huge. It traumatizes entire families. It injects fear into communities. And there are massive economic and social costs, healthcare, justice system, lost potential. It really burdens societies.
Which just underscores why we absolutely need a collective response.
Exactly. It's not just their problem, it's our problem.
Right. So that brings us to the crucial part. Fighting back. It feels overwhelming, but you said it's not invincible. What's the most effective starting point? Where do we begin?
Community awareness. That is absolutely the first line of defense. Things like the UN's Blue Heart campaign, or the It's a Penalty campaign during big sports events.
Getting the word out to millions.
Yes. Educating people about the risks, the signs, because widespread knowledge really does empower prevention.
And schools, community groups,
Mm-hmm.
they have a huge role in teaching kids directly, right? But online safety, healthy relationships, spotting grooming.
Absolutely vital. And alongside that, building trust between parents and kids, making it safe for them to speak up about any weird or uncomfortable interaction without fearing they'll get in trouble or have their devices taken away invasively.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about the bigger picture? Laws? Enforcement.
That's critical too. Governments have to step up, enact strong anti-trafficking laws, actually enforce them, hold perpetrators accountable, and cooperate across borders. These trafficking networks are often international.
Like that Interagency Coordination Group, ICAS. They're pushing for more action.
Yeah, they're aiming for accelerated action by 2025, focusing on things like online safety and better support for survivors. The core idea is that we need coordinated legal muscle to actually dismantle these operations.
And we also need to tackle the root causes, don't we? The vulnerabilities traffickers prey on.
Definitely. Reducing vulnerability means addressing the underlying issues: poverty, lack of education, unstable family situations, social safety nets, educational opportunities. These things build resilience in communities.
Social safety nets.
Exactly. Strengthen them from within.
And technology. It's used by traffickers, but can it be used to fight back?
It has to be. Tech companies have a huge responsibility here. Removing exploitative content, developing better child safety tools, educating families about digital risks.
Blocking CSAM sites, for example.
Yes, it's about using their own tools against them, essentially. Turning that weapon into a shield.
And we are seeing some concrete actions, like Ontario's strategy for 2025-2030.
Right, that includes awareness campaigns, special youth intervention teams, support for survivors, specific practical steps.
And the EU strengthening its rules too, trying to criminalize using the services of victims, tackling demand.
Yes, hitting it from the demand side is crucial as well. It shows that progress happens when there are specific, actionable strategies being implemented.
So it really takes a multifaceted approach.
It absolutely does. Community education, strong laws, addressing root causes, using technology smartly, all working together. There's no single magic bullet.
Which brings us back to the listener, to you, because recognizing the signs is where everyone can potentially play a role.
That's the first crucial step anyone can take.
Okay, so let's run through those again. What are the key warning signs people should look out for? Things like looking malnourished, maybe unexplained injuries?
Yes, or maybe they avoid eye contact, seem scared of authority figures, give answers that sound rehearsed or scripted.
Not having ID, maybe? Working really long, weird hours?
Or living where they work, being controlled or watched by an older person, showing signs of trauma, being emotionally numb.
Or the opposite, maybe having sudden unexplained wealth, new clothes, gadgets?
That too, or frequent unexplained absences from school. The key is often a combination of these signs. Trust your instincts if something feels off.
Right, so if you see these signs, if you suspect something, what's the immediate action? Who do you call?
In the U.S., the National Human Trafficking Hotline is a key resource. That number is 1-888-373-7888. Or you can contact local law enforcement.
And if it feels like an emergency, like immediate danger?
Then call 911 or 999 in the UK, your local emergency number. Don't hesitate. And remember, you can often report anonymously. Your call could genuinely save someone.
Okay, and beyond reporting, how else can people get involved? Support the fight.
Well, you can support anti-trafficking organizations, groups like Our Rescue, World Vision. There are many others doing vital work. Donations, volunteering, every little bit helps sustain their efforts.
And just talking about it, right? Educating others.
Absolutely. Educate and advocate. Share what you've learned. Talk about it in your community. Push for stronger laws, better support for survivors.
Talk to the kids in your life about online safety. Urge school to do awareness training.
Yes, your voice, your vigilance.
Yeah.
It really does matter. Don't underestimate the power of awareness.
It feels like such a huge, dark problem, but as you said, it's not invincible. And that increase in victim identification we mentioned, that's actually a positive sign in a way.
It is. It's a sign of better detection, better awareness. It means more children are being reached, hopefully rescued and helped. It shows we're making inroads.
So there is a path forward.
There absolutely is. Through global awareness, through focused rescue efforts, through prevention strategies like we've discussed, and through listening to and supporting survivors, progress is possible.
Every child saved, every trafficker brought to justice.
Every community that becomes more aware and protective.
Yeah.
These are all victories, small steps that add up.
So maybe the final thought for you, the listener, is this. What does it really mean for us, for our generation, to truly fulfill our collective responsibility to protect the vulnerable? Think about how sustained vigilance, shared knowledge, starting right here, right now, how that could fundamentally change the future for millions of kids. What if we really committed to ensuring every single child grows up safe, free, and, hopeful?
That's the goal.
It's a future worth fighting for, and maybe, just maybe, it's one we can actually build together.